Greetings, this is James Gilliland with As You Wish Talk Radio on the BBS network. We've got a great show. We've got Barry Littleton coming up. And before we get into Barry, we've got a few announcements we need to make about upcoming events. And we're right in the middle of the self-mastery workshop, and it's already started off. It's pretty amazing, and that's going to be going on this weekend. Coming up the weekend of June 9th, I'll be co-presenting with my friend Michael Tellinger, and he'll be talking about Ubuntu, and I'll be covering the liberation of planet Earth. And we'll also have amazing sound healing with Neil and Soul. That's going to be fun. Our big event is coming up and open for registration, the ESETI 2017 conference, which this year starts June 30th. And we've had so much amazing activity happen at the ranch, and with the contact intention setting we're doing during the conference, it's going to be amazing. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers, including Jimmy Church from Fade to Black and Coast to Coast. We've got Luna Joy, and he's the Cloak of Light activation. Ken Rolla, he's on geoengineering and biowarfare. Erica Luke, she's of UFO Classified. Costa Macraeus and Hollis Polk from ET Let's Talk. Barry Littleton, who we're about ready to interview, is going to be with us as well. John Bertoli with Light Language. Elizabeth Diane on Sustainable Living with Earth Mud Housing, and more to be announced. And we have a couple other up-and-coming masters that are going to be joining us, I believe. And so there'll be more coming, for this event. Don't miss it. It's going to be amazing. And I want to get in my guests. There's some other things I want to talk about. Maybe I can share them with Barry as we go. But he was born somewhat awake and had, odd past life memories from the beginning. In childhood, he had intense telepathy and began having odd encounters with different beings, some disincarnated that he didn't understand who and what they were. At the age of 18, his experiences became even more physical and resulted in 4 separate encounters that totaled about 18 hours of missing time. The combined experiences of missing time, conscious encounters, and past life memories led him to a vast amount of research in attempting to verify and explain the experiences. He's been physically on several different craft and has had several different types of beings, much of which he's able to describe in detail. And he studied, researched, and practiced several aspects of spiritual, metaphysical, and paranormal phenomenon. In late 2010, Barry was involved in a near-terminal car accident in which he received 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries and had an NDE on the way to the hospital. It is chiefly because of that accident that he's now speaking out about his contact experiences. So we're delighted to have Barry on the show again, and Barry will return to DSETI for our annual conference in July. So welcome to the show, Barry. How you doing?
Pretty good. Hello, James. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction. It's good to hear your voice again.
Oh, yeah. What's new in your world?
Not much. It took me several months to process the experiences I had at the ranch there during the time I was there. I'll tell you that I've been having experiences my whole life, but that one pushed it to still the brink.
Yeah, I mean, you saw some massive ships, treetop level. You saw that one ship dematerialize a mountain. You could see right through it. I mean, after it went behind the mountain, you could still see the ship. That was. That happened in Joshua Tree as well. And
really?
Yeah, the same thing. It was amazing. There was this big mountain. The ship went behind it. You could still see it. It was really bizarre. But, I know if you want to share some of your experiences here, feel free.
Sure. As far as that mountain, that had me look a lot into what they're calling now the quantum holographic theory of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And really how some of these beings actually, once they came here from especially different star systems, they used actually the wormhole to get here, but they create a hologram when they actually go through the wormhole. There's a copy made on the surface. They call that the quantum hologram. And when you start dealing with species that are type 2 and 3 civilizations, some of them still exist only in the quantum hologram. So I think that has a lot to do with how our experiences kind of intertwined with our brains in the divine field. I'm sure that's what happened to me at the ranch out there, where I was allowed to perceive that, because it was, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I know. Were you there when I know Peter and those guys? I think you were with them when they saw that big jellyfish type ship, the one with all the orbs inside of it. It was lighting and.
No, I don't think I was there with when the big yellow one was kind of on back of the property that almost looked like a spotlight. I was there for that one. That was, yeah.
So many sightings. Yeah, they all blend together.
Yeah, that was huge, you know.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was going to say at Contact in the Desert, it was kind of funny. We did, you know, I don't like to talk crap about people. I never do. But our Mr. Greer there, Mr. Greer did his major invocation and everything. Not one ship showed up, zero. And the people that there were doing it. They had all their night vision, everything. You go, wow, it's totally blank. You know, which kind of shows how much the Galactic Federation think of him. But the contacts that he actually trashed me on stage and said all kinds of negative crap about me. But I think it's funny. You know, I think it's hilarious. But you know, obviously, you know, but I had 85 ships come up when I did the invocation there, and also too because it was all heart centered. You know, and it was all inviting them, not going up and vectoring them in and taking control of their minds. You know, which
really impossible. You know.
Yeah, you know, how do you take control of a fifth and sixth and seventh dimensional being? You know, give me a break. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You know, without saying anything negative, something that I very much learned at my trip at ASETI also was I've never been involved with quote unquote the circles. You've got the New Age circles and the UFO circles and stuff. You know, but it's kind of amazing how like the media and the people that we see so much that aren't really contactees, they're not really experiencers, but they're dictating this entire field and what we're looking at. You know, right now, one of the reasons that I really got into your work and became hip to what you were doing is about 1991, but you were focusing on positive contact. And that's what I had. And now we're having like that study that was done by Free. And, you know, there's about 2,000 people that have gone through several phases of it, theexperiencers.org. But the interesting thing is you start phasing that out, the people that might be either lying or insane or whatever. But as you get to the other phases, it gets harder to trick that survey. But, you know, you've got 85%, almost 2,000 people that said they had positive contacts that they didn't want to stop. And it also was emotionally and cognitive beneficial. That's not what we hear in the media at all.
You know, I know that, you know, they have the old saying, you know, how the lie will circle the globe twice before the truth has time to tie its shoes. But it's the same thing with the negative. You know, the negative gets all the press, and the positive stuff and the other stuff gets shoved aside. And you know, that's part of the censorship program and part of power. You know, that's what they do, and it fits right into it. And I gave a talk about that, and I told him, I said, you know, there are so many people that are actually willing participants in the cover-up and the censorship, and some are unwilling participants because they're just going on recycled ignorance or knowledge that somebody's regurgitated, you know, they had some contact in the government or something like that. And they're also trying to keep it in the past or keep it nuts and bolts. And actually, they're censoring contact. They're censoring the real contacts.
Yes.
And some are doing. There's planned opposition that the government has installed in certain places, which, you know, the aforementioned fits right into there. And then there are other people that just have a huge invested interest in it. You know, they have a big ego interest in it, or a monetary interest, and they don't want things to change.
Yes. You know, it's interesting because now that I've actually seen that data that they've collected, nobody really wants to talk about it, James. No one wants to talk about the survey questions, about any of it, because it goes against the paradigm. Now, if you want to mention something about, quote unquote, the secret space program or the reptilians that you slayed on Mars, I mean, people are going to be all over it. They're going to be all over it, you know, the archons. But we have to start focusing on the positive part of this and where this humanity is being helped. I hear so much people saying, why aren't there star beings doing anything about this and that? You know, they're trying, and it's happening consciously, and that isn't enough for some people. But
well, you know, they've blocked kill shots, you know, from the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those kill shots, it would have totally thrown us into the dark ages. And NASA, and I have the footage of it, of them blocking these kill shots coming from the sun. They've done a little batting practice on a lot of meteors that were like extinction level events. NASA can't figure it out. They're going, oh crap, this one's close. This one's coming directly out. And then it vanishes, off the radar. It gets blown into a billion pieces. But, they know this. They know there's major intervention. And they have footage of UFOs popping these meteors. I mean, it's amazing. They knock these meteors down. And the latest footage, I love it. They're sending up some pretty negative satellites with some PSYOPs crap on it and things. And the UFOs knocked them right out on the pad. They didn't even get off the ground.
Anybody can actually verify what you just said. You can go to the SOHO website, and they have an archive on there that has taken pictures of the sun like every couple of minutes for years and years. You can archive it, and certain points you can see these ships that are hovering around the sun, going in and out of it, and there's several dates that there are actually, you can see them blocking the solar flare. And looking at the size of that solar flare and the spherical ship that was blocking it, it had to have been, you're looking at something probably about 10 times the size of Jupiter, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're massive ships.
And, another one is that the meteor that hit the city in Russia a couple of years ago, if you look at that in slow, there's another meteor that came in and impacted it to split it up. And in reality, that's one of those devices that is being holographically projected to be something else that someone's helping us,
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting so much help. And lately there's some things, and I guess I can talk about it now. I wasn't able to talk about it, but with the RV, I mean, we would have been in total collapse, monetary collapse right now, if it wasn't for a lot of help by the higher dimensional beings as well as the ground crew, and the people on the ground. And there's been a transdimensional war going on that actually translates, on the ground as to the RV and other things like that. And they've been helping immensely. And from my understanding, like everything's finally been signed and done. And, the cabal has tried all they could to stop it. And their moles and everything are pretty much taken out now. So it's finally going forward. But you can see the gloves are off. And there was an incident, and trying to see if I can talk about it. But there were some banksters that, the humanitarian funds that were all set up to totally transform the earth and everything else. Well, these guys hijacked them, totally hijacked them, not once, but several times. So they tried it again, and they tried to put a back door in, and they took off in this plane, and they're all bragging, yeah, we got them, we totally suckered these guys, and like this. When the plane landed, the pilots were fine, but everybody in the plane were dead. And so they're taking the gloves off now. And if these guys were successful in what they did, the whole world, there would have been a total global economic collapse. And pain and the suffering and that would have come from that is imaginable. So, I mean, that's the type of these people we're working with. They care nothing about humanity and the earth. Oh, their greed is just insatiable.
I had seen that as a possible timeline, and I know a lot of remote viewers saw it too. And Ed Dames kind of went far with that, but I knew it was a possibility of the solar flare of that type, and it was definitely averted. But what you mentioned before, would that have something to do, you think, with the sonic booms that were being heard for so long and the mysterious metal scraping sounds that were being heard around the world?
Well, some of the booms were actually, some transdimensional war, some galactic warfare going on. A lot of the groaning and scraping noise. Now, if you go back to the ancient times, in the days of the Anunnaki before the pole shift, they said the groaning of earth and the screeching was so loud that they could hardly stand it. And they said a lot of them, it just, it just went right through them, and a lot of them bailed. They took off. They knew something was coming, but I think that was the earth itself moving. Now the earth, the Andromedans actually pulled the earth back twice. The earth started to go into a pole shift, and they actually held it and pulled it back, so the oceans didn't go reeling across the continent. and saved our butts there. And people recognize, they go, wait a second, the stars are all in the wrong place. We're moving, something's happening, and all of a sudden it goes back, to normal again. And I've seen that here. I go, why is the Dipper there? I go, the Dipper isn't supposed to be there, and I come out the next day and it's where it's supposed to be. So I've seen that. I've actually physically seen that here. And people come up here and they go, and they tell me this story about how they were looking at the sky and how it changed. But they thought they were going nuts, and they didn't want to talk to anybody about it because nobody would believe it. And they tell me the story, and I go, I saw the same thing. I saw exactly what you saw.
Man, the ranch is a power spot, a real one. I've been to one in the state that I live in, but it's not like the one you're on out there. It's totally different. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens out there that can't be explained. Before I came out there, I quoted several times that I wasn't really interested in, quote unquote, seeing ships and sky watching much because I'd lost so much time that it kind of, messed with my life a lot. But I wasn't prepared for the way you see them out there. It's totally different. It's at a certain point, they start coming in awful close when you're out there really early in the morning. Yeah.
And what's nice too is they're just, they give it, when they power up like that, you get this beautiful pulse from them, and it's all empowering. It's not something that's going to be doing anything against your will or anything else. And we have to invite it and raise our consciousness so we can have the really close contacts. It's just a whole different scenario.
Mm-hmm. And, and I'm convinced, that honestly, there's definitely a connection that the Sasquatch are involved on that, because it's very, very active on that property there. I had quite a bit going on there that it took me a long time once I got back to my state to actually process that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those emails might grab you and take you off in the forest and we'll never see you again.
I don't think so. My dating record sucks. I don't think even Sasquatch would be interested.
Yeah, you never know. They're really shy. They're very sensitive. So just the fact that you experience them shows the level that you're in the heart. That you're coming from a good space.
Yeah, and I will say that the being I was interacting with was definitely not a wild human, as they're called. That was some type of a shaman of a tribe, definitely. And very advanced one that was out there literally using my own invisibility techniques on me. I had just done a video about that and all the invisibility and ways to trick the eye and stuff like that. And I was kind of, trying to practice some of that when I'm out in the mountains. That's the perfect place. And I can't believe that Sasquatch was practicing it on me. That took a lot to deal with.
Yeah, they're masters at camouflage, and they can also shift dimensions and things like that. So they're pretty tough. They've been doing it all their life.
Yes. Was there anything specifically you wanted me to talk about too? Because I kind of went off topic talking about that other
stuff. Well, what do you think? What is your take on where the world is going right now, and what's the future for, let's say, contact, and disclosure and all those other venues going on?
Disclosure. I found that to be a word used to kind of excuse the criminals that have enslaved this planet for thousands of years. You know what I mean? And disclosure is happening now. And, it's one thing to talk it, but I've got so many people who have reached out to me now, other experiencers, other contactees, that I know how much this is happening on the conscious level. And a lot of the people will tell me, well, I'm not like you. I haven't had experience. And they come to find out they really have. Most of the people that have actually even seen a UFO need to understand that you're getting information transmitted to you on the super conscious level. And it's nothing wrong. James, something I've heard a lot lately is, especially in the community among Black experiencers, especially, is denying people getting hypnosis. Or whatever happens, don't get hypnosis for your missing time. Don't get hypnosis for seeing that ship like that. I mean, who is anyone to tell anyone not to experiment with their own consciousness? And that, and a lot of people like me, probably like you, we have experienced our whole life experiences, but it's not the perfect thing that I can say it now. I can tell the story, and it makes sense, and it's actually chronological correct. But it took me a lifetime to put that together because a lot of it came in snippets and fragments. You're missing that time. It's not that easy to recall that. And getting hypnosis, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can doing things that are meditation and other things that you just can't access the memories. Like for me, it was simply the point that the vibration that these beings were on, and actually the ship itself was so fast and different from ours that it was hard to retain the memory of being there, of everything anyway. And, of course, with the media, I went through at a certain point, being an African-American man, I was a black man, I was very much looking for other black experiencers. And I only saw, of course, Barney Hill, and it seemed like he didn't have the best experience. So I was thinking, oh no, did they wipe my mind? Did they erase my mind? Although, did they give me screen memories? Although I knew I had positive contact. But I'm saying the media can influence people so much that it can alter the type of contact you have.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you brought that up. It's almost like there's this racial thing in contact. There's a Mexican woman that called me, and I think I'm supposed to say Hispanic, or I hate this PC crap, why can't we just be humans, because we're all souls, and we have these multicultural, genetic meat sacks we're in, but bottom line, we're all souls. But anyway, she was talking, and she called in on a radio show, and she was saying, I don't know what's going on. All my family think I'm crazy. They think it's the devil. They think this, that. They're afraid to even look at this stuff or talk about it. She goes, but when I go down to Mexico, it's part of their culture. It's all open, and it's okay. So I'm really wondering, why is it okay in Mexico, but here in the States, it's not okay within a lot of the Mexican community or Hispanic community or whatever you're supposed to say now. But why is that? What kind of social programming is, hey, you're in another country, don't rock the boat, or what? There's some fear factor there that keeps people from talking about it.
Thanks to being kind of getting revealed by Peter Maxwell Slattery. I always got to give him a shout out. I got to talk to people all over the world, and I'm finding out that how much actually a lot of that is confined to the United States. How much we're just completely trying to still put this under the carpet. We're like the main ones.
Yeah.
And that, and I'm wondering, when is that going to change? And all this, the people that are making all the money up in the forefront start stepping aside and let real people that are having contact start speaking out and start getting noticed. Because it's a time now, I'm seeing so many people that can describe, like I can describe, some type of 0-point technology we've seen on this craft that is actually revolutionary. And I know now they're younger, their star seeds being born now younger, that can actually put what I've seen in mathematical formulas, and there's somebody else that has the manual dexterity to build it. That's becoming a reality that I think won't be suppressed much longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It is kind of sad. Unfortunately, the planned opposition and the posers and all those guys, they rise to the top, and the media loves them, and they're great showmen and things like that. But, I always go, where's the beef? Where's the meat here? And it's sad, but it is a reality. It definitely is going on. And I see people all the time, especially at Contact in the Desert. I met all these people, and I said, you know what? You should be the one on stage here, not me. I mean, you have full memory. You're having all these contacts, these amazing things happen. And I just said, you haven't been away so long, so. Mm-hmm. You're young and you're fresh and you're not all controlled and programmed, by all this other nonsense going on. So it's amazing. And we have some coming up here for the conference, some really, really tapped in people. But, the way I look at it, I have a lot of wisdom from experience, and I've been in this field for so long, and that helps validate what they're experiencing and it supports them. But, there'll come a time where I'll have to step back and say, hey, take it and run with it. It's like, this is your baby. And I met these two young men at the conference, and one has all the conspiracy stuff down and everything else. And but he takes people out of that into a higher level, but say, look, you got to be aware of what's going on. And the other guy takes people from the midpoint, I guess, to the higher level and teaches Qigong and all this other stuff. So, so I'm going, wow. I said, I see these two people make me, it's like there's one covers one side that I cover all the time, and the other covers the other side. And I'm going to do all I can to get these people out there and support them so they can get the information out, because, it's you get beat up doing this stuff, and it gets old. It's refreshing to see other people that have figured it out, they're going forward now.
I'll say, with all the amount of these quote unquote media fakes that I'm seeing, and you know it as well as I do. And what's interesting are the people I've met now, like you said, that should be on stage. There's so many real contactees and people that have clairvoyant abilities that if you're lying and you're pretending to be a contactee and you're not, and you're just saying a bunch of regurgitated stuff from other people, the beings themselves will tell. And there's other people that will see it. That's a very, very risky business, and you, like I, can have seen many people right now that are quote unquote secret space people, whistleblowers that as well as I do are not contactees.
Yeah.
But people are listening and paying them money, and that's much more important. And it's messing up the true awakening that's going on.
I agree. One of the things I saw is that they would go for the star power and the cash and the draw versus the integrity and the people that were for real. And, people don't come up here unless they're for real. If you're not in your heart, if you're not for real, you're not going to make it up here.
I'll tell you something else. It'll run your way in 3 days if you're not ready to heal either.
Oh, yeah, exactly. In the very beginning, we allowed a couple people in that we shouldn't have. And that, I had a crew here and we're all working together. And I kind of got outvoted. But after it happened, everybody goes, now I understand, And now I understand why you were really reluctant to have this person come, But it's and now I don't. It's like if you're not in integrity, and it doesn't mean you're perfect, and it doesn't mean you're not infallible. We all are. All it means is that your heart and your intention has to be in the right direction. And if they're not, if you're all about fame and money and notoriety and power over others, and you're not going to come here.
No, that is definitely a place of healing, and it brings up, I see the third day, it brings up any trauma. We did a video over that, and people that aren't at least some type of warriors and aren't willing to deal with their trauma and try to heal from it. It's not, the land isn't doing it to hurt you. It's doing it to help you heal.
Yeah.
And it's right in front of your face. But if you're one of those people that likes to run and don't want to deal with it, you'll be out of there.
Yeah.
I even saw that happen during the conference to a few attendees. They were gone the third day.
And we tell people, we go, hey, you're on a vortex. I know you love this beautiful, loving, joyous energy that you feel here when you come on the land and you feel like home. The problem is that energy is going to push up everything that doesn't resonate with it. And so, like you're saying, by about the third day, they're in their stuff and they have the option. They can heal it. And the energy's here and the beings are here. Everything are here to help with the healing process. Or they can go into project and blame. And that doesn't last very long here. You go into that mode and the ranch just spits you out. As long as a lot of the people are. Most of the people who are very empowered, and they will help you. But they will also call you on your stuff if necessary.
I'll tell you, that's absolutely true. I witnessed that several times. It was fascinating,
Yeah, I should just love everybody. I wanted everybody to get it, everybody to heal, and finally I had to start setting some boundaries, and going, you know what, this person doesn't want to heal. They want to remain in the same consciousness. And the same thing when you get people with they're really stuck in their intellect. They don't want new knowledge. They want to remain in their present truth, and they try to manipulate you into trying to prove it to them and things like that. And you go, well, I always go, well, there's a couple of assumptions you made here. One, that you have some authority in my life. And two, I actually give a crap what you believe, It doesn't matter to me. You can believe whatever you want. I'm just sharing something. You can either, use it, take it and enjoy it, or, you can throw it in the trash. It's your choice. And you're just hurting yourself if you throw it in the trash. So it's like, it's not up to me to prove anything to anyone. I'm just here to help those who want to go forward and expand and learn.
I had just encountered that when talking about, people are really into that Mandela effect still and all that. Yeah. And whether or not people's view on that, or time travel, they'll argue that and tell me it doesn't exist, it can't happen, but yet they know nothing about time science, about the technicals of it, about special relativity or general relativity, or the private sector, what they're doing. And then when I start asking them questions like that, they can't answer. They don't even know what I'm talking about, but they're so busy telling me I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
Remember, do you remember Lori that was here? Laura, I'm trying to remember her last name. She was at the conference too, in Contact. I'm like brain farting right now. But she talked about the Mandela effect and showed, all those different things and symbols and things like that, and how they've changed from what they used to be. And they, when you call them up, they go, no, this is the same symbol we've had since the beginning. And they'll pull up their records to show it. And then all of a sudden you'll see it on a bumper sticker or you'll see it somewhere else. And like Mandela, same thing. I go, oh, he was dead. And then all of a sudden, no, he's not dead, and then next he's president, of Africa. And you're just going, wait a second, this is like really weird. I thought that guy, he died, and there's so many people that saw that, and the Pepsi logo, the Fruit Loops box, everything has totally changed from what it was when I was a kid, and and we all remember very clearly what this used to look like, and then we find out, supposedly according to one timeline or one reality, it was never that way.
Something else that you have a lot of the private sector, you have a lot of people making these small devices that really do, when they're in operation, somehow affect the fabric of our reality. And if you're in the presence of a real time control technology, at least the states that I've seen being studied now, you're going to encounter that distortion that's really the Doppler effect. But when you start thinking about what would it be like for a person with abilities, a quote unquote time sensitive, to be around a distortion like that, the Doppler effect, you're going to have things like deja vu, ringing of the ears, dizziness, vertigo. And these are things that a lot of awake people are experiencing right now. So that the possibility that could be some type of a time technology being operated in your vicinity, in your proximity. It's just one thing to be aware of. It's not just people talking conspiracy. That's really going on. And you can see some of these devices in the medical field, especially. Mm-hmm. So that,
Yeah, I agree. What the MRIs, those the fields around the MRIs are just like,
okay.
Insane.
I can't believe you said that. Yesterday, I had to get my wisdom tooth x-rayed. And I had got into a very long conversation with the technician. And she told me that she actually used to be an MRI specialist. So I said, I've heard about a lot of technicians saying they've seen entities coming in out of those machines. And she looked at me and her eyes got big as a fly, And she said, how did you know about that? I said, I've just heard it. And she said, that's very true. She said, no one really talks about it. She said, in fact, sometimes these beings, in the MRI room, opposed to when she started doing x-rays and working with them. She said there are two different types of consciousness that seem to be coming through. And she even I said, what forms did you see? She said around x-rays, sometimes we see a lot of shadows and things that will wake you up at 3 a.m. But around MRI is different. She said we see people type of energy, and we're pretty sure it irradiates us being around those machines because they're very loud, and that these beings follow us home. And, I found that just interesting because this is somebody that, quote unquote, is just, not really, I think, into it like we would. It was just, it is what it is, So much electromagnetic radiation coming out of those machines that it's unreal. So.
Yeah, we passed out probably, thousands of cards there at the conference with the healing prayer on the back of them. It shows people how to heal unseen negative influences, how to maintain their self-authority and things like that, just because it is so prevalent, especially at events like that. And I was trying to tell people, our buddy Greer and those other guys were saying there are no negative ETs. And he actually said it in his talk. He said, We got to stop being spiritual snobs. We have to open to anything that comes along and let it into our bodies. And I'm just going,
whoa,
are you kidding me? I go, who are you working for? You know, it's like,
let into your bodies.
Yeah. And I'm just going, right after that, he started slandering me, you know, because I've been talking about, you know, clearing the unseen negative influences. So obviously he's very threatened by doing the clearings and recognizing the dark side and things like that. And I guess anybody can put two and two together to figure out why he's so threatened by it. But, you know, but I was talking about how, you know, we need to really do our research, you know, and just because somebody has a famous name or whatever else, you know, do some research, find out how they treat their staff, you know, what they do off the podium, you know, where the money goes, things like that. Do some deep research and you'll find out that things are not what you think they are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow. Huh. You know, the negative entity thing and all that is very real. And we can see that by our very environment down there. And we have to be aware of that and know how to protect ourselves, you know, but at the same point, we have to focus on see how things are being helped. But there's a fine line there, but I see so many people getting entrenched, like what you're saying he was doing there. You know, everything, you know, I mean, letting other beings take over your physical body when you don't know who they are and they're inorganic beings is not wise.
Yeah.
To have an open communication, but letting them take over your body? Huh. Okay, I'll pass on that one.
Yeah. I've seen that happen. Yeah, it becomes like Reptile Central, or, you know, there's negative grays, there's reptiles, there's serpent beings. You know, there's a whole host of beings you don't want, you know, in your space, especially in your body. You know, but and what amazes me to make comments like that when there's actually, you know, thousands of years of evidence and teachings and everything. I mean, the Archon stuff goes back to the Egyptians, where they talk about the different levels, you know, and the stories about these guys and how to keep them out of your space. You know, so all of a sudden one guy comes along and says, oh, none of that's true, you know, like we're going to do the Pollyanna approach and, you know, just bring anything that comes, you know, and let it take over our bodies and do whatever it will it has with them. It's just like, are you serious? Like, you know, who do you work for? You know, it's like, what side of the go on, you know, but anyway, you know, I think it's beyond ridiculous, but you know, proof is in the pudding, you know, when he does his intention thing and nothing shows up. And then we had Order 85. I had 9 ships flying around behind my talk when I just did my lecture. And last year we had a whole host of ships came in right at the end of my lecture and came and did their thing very low. You know, the bottom line is that, you know, the proof is in the pudding, you know, and before, you know, you could summon all kinds of entities and they would come. And it doesn't mean you're working on the right side of the fence. It means, yeah, you've got entities there, but who are they? What's their agenda? You know, what's their, you know, are they these militaristic, low-level contacts, you know, and do you run your programs in a very militaristic way? That should tell you something. But, you know, the bottom line is it's great to know that these other guys have pretty much been taken out and they're not going to show. They're not going to be around anymore. And the people that have been working with them have lost their connection. You know, they've lost their, you know, the puppets are losing the puppet masters because they're being taken out by the ultra dimensionals and the higher level beings. And so, I mean, watching that unfold like that was very, empowering and very enlightening, and actually, you know, I was like jumping for joy going, yeah, finally, you know, the light's taken over, you know, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk about some of your other experience. I know you've had contact with a lot of different groups. Maybe you can bring some of those experiences to the table.
Yeah, no problem. You know, I've introduced actually a couple of different beings, and they all work within an alliance. Mm-hmm. But I didn't find out till later on. And another thing that was kind of stressful, because even, you know, before I ever had to go regression or anything, I could still see many of these beings because these were physical encounters, you know. One of them was the first one that kept coming to me when I was a child was insectoid, Xandar. And a lot of people seem to have taken interested in him. And another one that's been on several ships I've been on, Mana. And Mana was, looks like had a reverse brain and actually was amphibious. So sometimes, you know, when trying to explore I was looking out of the box because I wasn't seeing these little grays running around or reptilians. These were different types of beings. And also, on one of the ship that I actually on my YouTube channel, I've shown most of the rooms in the ship that I can remember anyway being in. But it's something that's kind of, there's like dimensionally, the outside and inside of the ship are not in the same dimension. So when being inside of the ship itself, there's a type of mist in there that's kind of hard to breathe. And then also it's like being out of sync. So it's like being really dizzy with vertigo really bad the whole time you're in there. They called it temporal aphasia. Okay, so that made it hard to remember some of the experience itself. But on this ship in particular, this one I'm talking about in particular, were these eggs that I've showed some pictures of. And inside these eggs was a mist and also several different configurations of what appear to be light patterns and plasma, also plasma configurations. Now, at first, I thought maybe that was a power source until I got so sick with this temporal aphasia, the sickness, that a couple of these lights come out of the tube and start attaching to my energy field, and they're helping me. And I could see that some of the other beings that are kind of more corporeal, you know, although they're kind of phased out, but they're more corporeal, they're standing around these eggs and looking at these eggs quite a bit also. So I came to find out that basically these lights in these eggs are non-corporeal, non-physical crew members, probably most likely, I think, command officers or something like that. You know, and it was hard to just accept that at first because I didn't understand it. And even seeing something like that without having a proper frame of reference makes it kind of hard to remember to a certain degree. You know what I mean? But I think when being a fictional ship, what is it really like? What is it really like? It's not like on Star Trek, Kirk and Spock aren't just sitting right there. And you know what I mean? It's not, Sulu's not right there. It's a different thing. It's out of sync. And if you're there physically, like I was, in the inside and outside, the inside is in a slightly different dimension or out of phase. It makes it really hard to deal with it. But on this ship, there were several different beings on board. One being the Mana type, one being the Xandar type, the insectoid type, others being beings without bodies, and another that I called, I kind of call them pepperheads because they have heads that look kind of pepper-like, but none of them were rays, you know.
Yeah. You know, there's, I got something to share with you, you'll love. I actually took these photographs, and I hope I can dig them up. And I know they're on one of these hard drives here. But I took these photographs of this ship, and I was shooting the photograph of the ship, and it started sending me images. And I actually got it on film. And one of the images was an orb with like an insect larva in it. And the other image was an orb with a baby, with a human baby in it. And the message they were sending me is that their babies are just as important as our baby, as we feel about our babies, you know. Mm-hmm. And I go, wow, you know, like this is amazing, you know, like the information, the energy that came with that experience. But I actually got it on film. I got a picture of the ship and these two orbs, one with a insect larva and one with a human baby in it, you know, right side by side.
Wow. I've been looking a lot also into, how contact happens on the microscopic level, how some of these civilizations are maybe microscopic. And we start looking at things like Moore's Law, how many, resistors and transistors are on a chip. Every year it doubles. Oh, yeah. When you start going into that and going into what they're now, I've been looking a lot at not just nanotech, but they call pico technology, which is even smaller than nano. It's like actually how, like, when you look at the Transformer movie, the last one, how they actually had the Decepticons would break themselves like into a nano dust and then reassemble themselves. Pico is a technology that helps them to reassemble in the nanostructure. So, I mean, that's taken it to a whole nother level. And, when looking at Mount Adams out there, I'm wondering how much of the civilizations inside those mountains are maybe microscopic to a degree. And we see things like little flashes of light and what are called wisps. You know, those might not just be inorganic beings. They might also be ships. They might be large ships, like Legion ships, and we're just unaware of it. So I think that maybe we start looking at that. And I know that the scientists are talking a lot about Dyson spheres right now and megastructures that go around stars. I think they may have seen one. But if you take the picoscience that we just talked about and things like the actual implants that were removed by Dr. Lear, the physical ones that they found had miles of carbon nanotubes in them, if they were to be unraveled, you start looking at that and you think about a Dyson sphere. We're dealing with civilizations, James, that would never probably go out of the Dyson sphere to explore interstellar space. They're going to do it from within. On that microscopic level below that, even that's taking everything to a whole different level, especially if we start thinking, we talked about earlier, that some of these entities still exist in the quantum hologram itself, in a copy of it, but they exist there now and are still interacting with us on that level, on the molecular level.
I've heard that it's infinitely large and infinitely small. It goes in both directions, so it is kind of interesting. We got a big storm here. It's funny. I had this weird sense. I go, I'm feeling thunder or lightning for some reason. And about 2 minutes later, I hear this big thunder thing going on. So if you hear a big boom, that's a big thunderhead right over us.
You had told me a story out there that I thought about quite a bit. And it was very interesting. You told me about something that, in fact, a few people mentioned it, about something that looks similar coming out of the mountain. It looks similar to a Petrodon or a pterodactyl, and it flies around. It's been seen even eating roadkill. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Anybody seen that recently?
I haven't heard of any recent sightings. I haven't, but I don't know. I guess if you Googled it, there may be, but yeah, I saw it several times. Other people saw it and just freaked out. I mean, it looked like a dragon or something flying, and you look closer at it and you go, boy, this thing's got no feathers, it's not a bird. It's flapping really hard to stay in the air, and then we saw the little ball on the end of its tail, and the head that looked like a pterodactyl. But I forgot the name of it, which one it is. Something.
Petrodon.
What's that?
Yeah, the Petrodon. The Petrodon had the ball on the end of the tail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was interesting, but people would look at it through the binoculars and they'd throw them down and go, I go, what'd you see? And they go, nobody, you wouldn't believe me, And I said, no, I said, you saw it, didn't you? I go, what pterodactyl,
something interesting when I was actually leaving, I kept getting information about that. And what kept coming through to me was one, that this thing seems to have a lot of the quality of being a sentinel, name one, from inside of the mountain. And then, odd as this sounds, actually, I just mentioned the Transformers came in. I see things, and it was when I was a kid, the actual first cartoon had these Dinobots. And one of the Dinobots was called, I can't remember his name now, but it was a pterodactyl.
Wow. And
I swear what you're kind of describing could very well be a cyborg that might also have flesh components that would lead it to have to eat roadkill or something like that. But the way you described it flying around the mountain the first time you told me about it, that almost sounds like even more than just the eagle would do it. That almost seems like a sentinel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They have at least 3 types of Bigfoot here. They have a kind of a more primitive one, and they have a really advanced one, that's much more advanced, even looks more humanistic. And then they have like an android type one, like you're talking about, that the ETs have, and they use it, like the big bad dog to keep people out of an area where they're doing something sensitive or whatever, collecting data or something. So it seems like all that stuff is going on.
Now, James, the one that was communicating with me, elders and went by, and I know he's probably white color, but what would he look like physically? Would he be one of the ones that look more human or more?
Yeah. He's very, very wise, very ancient. He has a couple apprentices that come with him, and Dalaki, the juvenile one that's been kind of messing with everybody's heads here. He's part of that same group, and he's in training. And he kind of breaks the rules a little bit, because they have kind of a non-interference policy and don't engage. But he has fun messing with people.
Those trees that were knocked over behind that cabin I was at, they're at about right around 12 feet tall, man. I mean, those things were broken. We would break something like that at waist level, chest level, maybe. Those things were pushed over 8 feet up. 8 feet up. That means whoever pushed it over was a minimum of 10 feet tall. Minimum. Oh, yeah. That's when I started kind of like, everybody says, I want to have an encounter. I want to encounter. If I run into Bigfoot, yada, yada. I'll tell you, you get up there in the mountains real far, rural, like where you are, and weird stuff starts happening, like what happened to me, rocks on the doorstep and trees being pushed over. It changes everything. You're walking down there in the darkness to where you're going.
Yeah. Exactly.
You start realizing that a lot of that is just talk, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hilarious. People, I've had people just couldn't believe it. And I said, there's nothing I say that can't be verified by other people who've had the same experience. And a lot of things I don't talk about because people aren't ready for that end of it. Or, some things I know I can't talk about it because it'll interfere in the manifestation. But it's definitely happening here. We're coming up to the end of the hour, unfortunately. It's always awesome to talk to you. But do you have any contact information or people that can get a hold of you?
Yeah, actually, you can reach me. I'm on Facebook, Barry Littleton on Facebook, or on YouTube, Barry Littleton and YouTube, straight Barry Littleton. I'll come up. We've got about 113 videos on there, fewer interviews, but a lot of them, about probably 80 of them, describe my contact experiences. And I'm also starting a website, BarryLittleton.com, but it's in process of being put up right now. I have to have somebody help me with it. I'm not much of a web designer, so that's kind of coming from right now. And I can be reached email BarryLittleton13@gmail.com.
Great. And you'll be up here on the for the major June 30th event, the big conference here, and people can come up and see you in person and actually see everything you've been talking about here in person as well, because I know the skies are going to be really busy. They always are during the conferences, and I'm sure we'll have some other multidimensional beings running around here, and people can get their own photographs and have their own experiences.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being invited back. I didn't think I would be. It's a pleasure to come back there. Definitely.
You're great. Everybody loves you here, and definitely would have you back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we got to sign off. We're out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is James Gilliland with the As You Wish Talk Radio on the BBS Network. And be sure and tune in and go to eSETI.events.com if you want to find anything more about the workshops and classes. Thor is talking in the skies right now, and I'm going to get off the air because we've got some big lightning bolts coming down around us.